Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's the Where to Start series. It's where we break down a lake where you would start for the month of September. And we give a battery away each month to our proud sponsors, Optima Batteries, just by leaving a comment. This month we've got some great lakes, from lakes that you guys have sent in, some lakes that I've never been to. And that's what I have to do, you know, on these video series, just break them down, looking at my CMAP, looking at Google Earth, doing a little research. Is if I had a tournament there in September, these are the places that I would go start. Make a cast. That's all we're trying to find is one cast, get a bite, get your day started. That's what this video series is about. We got 3 lakes coming at you. You guys stay tuned. Okay, so I went down through a lot of the comments. I might butcher this one. The Wallenpaupack, Mallard 243 sent it in. It's in Pennsylvania. It's one of the largest lakes all within the Pennsylvania borders. I think it's a smallmouth, largemouth lake. Looks really, really interesting. We got Salt Fork Lake. Man, I love the guy's handle. It's Bucknuts8824. Salt Fork Lake's in Ohio. Looks like a mountainous, kind of like a smallmouth lake to me. We're going to break that one down. And then last, that's going to be a surprise. I'll keep that for you guys. And at the end of this video, guys, I'm going to go down through there randomly, you know, just pick a winner that's going to win this battery right here. You guys just leave a comment. That's all you have to do. Each month, I go through there, randomly pick a winner. And with all the videos, you know, I'll never contact you. There's a lot of spam out there. You guys just have to send me an email through my website. But we got a winner picked out for this month's video. Somebody's going to win a battery certificate for a brand new Optima battery. All right, let's get into it. Wallenpaupack. This thing is in Pennsylvania. Now we're talking about September fishing. So let's look at it right here. Let's pull it up on my CMAP and check it out. In Pennsylvania, it's kind of like in the far eastern area of Pennsylvania, by Scranton. Really a cool lake. The first thing that I noticed, like it looks like a highland reservoir, but it's not overly deep. My CMAP actually shows that it has some flooded timber. I read that it's actually got smallmouth in it. I don't know, guys. It's got a couple islands, flooded timber. It's supposed to have some grass. It looks interesting. So it runs from the southwest to the northeast. One thing that I noticed right off the bat is it's got a really strong river, river that comes into it. I don't know the name of this river, but for me, one of the things that I love to do, and this works for anybody, anywhere, on any lake, compress the water. And what I mean by that is get in a section of that lake where, you know, for miles, your deepest water might be 10 feet or 5 feet or 20 feet. You know, if you're on Table Rock and you run way up a river somewhere and, you know, from one bank to the other, the deepest section is 30 feet. Well, you have compressed the water, because if you're down at the dam, your deepest section is 200 feet. And now a bass could be a lot, you know, deeper. They could be out 30, 40, 50 feet, depending on what the thermocline is. A lot of times they're not a thermocline. So one of the easiest things that you can do as a bass angler, go into a body of water, especially late summer, early fall, compress that water column. Run up a river, run up a creek, and especially if it's got water running in it. So if we were to zoom in on this lake right here, man, it all gets narrow and you know, the lake's deep, and then we get up here, man, the lake's not overly deep. You know, I got 15 feet, I've got 10 feet, I got 4 feet. Bass live here year round. They don't swim down to the dam. So, you know, this compresses it. Man, this bridge is a pinch point. I got a boat dock, I got a boat ramp, I got a big rock bluff. Man, I could catch a bass right here. It goes from mud to rock. It just looks very, very, very intriguing to me. I got boat. I like it. I like it a lot. So, you know, if I had a Major League Fishing tournament here, you know, we have a lot of tournaments on bodies of water where we've never been. Man, I would go. I would have to go make a cast right here. I'm just going back through the time here, just looking at different water levels as I look at this bridge. But this looks good. This bluff, this pinch, it gets narrow. Any current coming through there, it gets narrow. It goes from mud to rock. You know, it looks really good. So, you know, for me, I'd have to fish this zone right here. You know, maybe ease on up in through here with my trolling motor. But this zone to me looks like a place I could get a bite instantly, and that's what you want when you go to a lake and you're looking for a place to start. You want a bite. You want to get your confidence going. You know, it's just like football. We're in football season right now. Momentum. I just can't tell you how much momentum is going. And if you get a bite or two early in the day, then your decisions are going good for the rest of the day. So then I'm going to roll back down this lake here, and I'm going to look at some other stuff. You know, I really like long flat points. You know, this time of year. You know, here in the South, it works really well, but you got some rocks out off this point. You know, this to me would be a great spot to start with a topwater, you know, out off this point. If we look at it over here on my C-map, it's another compressed area. And what I mean by this compressed area, it compresses narrow. You know, the lake's really wide right here, and it has to narrow up to go through this gap right here. That's another way to compress it. You know, it's a funnel. So, you know, you've got a saddle right here on this side of the island. I've got a big flat point right here. You know, and there's going to be a photo here where that's all underwater. See, there it is. So now those rocks are right out here. I'd be throwing my Jaywalker out there, my Chapo out off that, you know, throwing a shaky head out off that. So that would be another place to start, you know, and again, it's a shallow deal. So I've given you two shallow ones where I feel very comfortable. You got another saddle, really shallow bar right here. I really like that. But if we were trying to find something, let's say, just a little bit deeper, something else that's maybe a little bit different down the lake. You know, if we wanted to get back down this lake and I had to pick some place to go make a cast to try to catch a bass, I'm going to look for something different. I'm going to look for an outside creek bend, you know, that comes up next to a point or a bluff, or think about the wind hitting something. You know, that right there looks really good to me, right where this, you know, this saddle goes out to this Epley Island. You know, if there's some isolated rocks out there, but I'm going to find something better. I'm going to narrow that down even more. It's a pretty cool hump right here. We got 26 to a shallow hump. I like that. It's on an outside river bend. Man, if this flooded timber is truly there, those are going to be some, you know, some fish that could spin in the tops of that timber. I would like to find a spot here. Interesting. I got a road. I got an outside creek bend. That's deep. Super deep. Yeah, there's not a lot to this lake. It's kind of featureless. I like this spot right here. Okay, so I've got mega deep water, mega deep, all the way around here, you know, 30 feet, and then it comes out on a flat, kind of really on a bluff. The reason I like it, here's a couple reasons. It's not a big bend, but it is a turn in the lake where the lake is south, and then the lake starts to go more to the east. So, you know, it's a turn in the lake, a dog leg in the lake. It's one of those things that I just look for. The other thing that I like about it, when I look at this, it's hidden. You know, if somebody was fishing down this bank, they're really not going to see this shelf that sticks out right here. So I'm talking about this piece right here, and then you've got this hump right here. So that when you look at it here, it does not stick out on this map at all. So to me, I think that's just a neat spot. You know, it's hidden. It's something that you're going to have to see with your C-map. You're going to have to find it with your Lowrance. But I just got a shelf right here and a hump or an underwater point right there. That's going to be my third place to start on Wallenpaupack Lake. In a place like this, I'm going to throw shaky head, a football jig. You know, maybe if it's out deep enough, I don't like drop shot in an 18, but I'd cast a drop shot. You know, I'm talking about vertical, you know, but you could definitely drop shot around that shaky head, throw a football jig, you know, possibly a topwater if they come up schooling. All right, I appreciate Mallard 243 for sending that in. Cool lake. All right, let's move on to the next one. We said we're going to do Salt Fork Lake. Okay, looking at this lake, it's an interesting lake. You know, looking at the depths on it, It's not killer deep. It looks like it's got a lot of like lily pads up in the upper ends of it. But you know, I've been studying it here just for a very, very short amount of time. There's 4, 5, 6 different creeks that feed this thing. There's a point here that kind of sticks out to me just from a long ways out. We talk about it a lot, you know, I like flat points. This point right here is really unique. So I've got, you know, mud banks, you know, I don't know what all this is, but it is shallow mud, like sandbar, like, you know, sand beaches for people to play on or something. It's some sort of development. But look how narrow it goes right here. You know, when we were talking about the wind and what it does, you know, and, you know, so you guys have to determine the back of a pocket. Like if the wind had been blowing for a long time, you know, this direction, the back of this pocket could be good, or you know, not really that one, or the back of this pocket, you know, if you got a stretch here, the wind's been blowing all the way there. But this point, for a place for me to go throw my Chapo, my Jaywalker, first thing in the morning. So I don't want like the best looking point necessarily. I just like a rounded, flat point. And I just can't tell you how many times, like it's the only time of the year I'll catch them on it is September and October. And it doesn't have to have a lot of cover on it. It's just a point. And it's a very narrow section of the lake right there. It's going to catch a lot of wind both directions. This is going to be a lake that I'm really going to pay attention to shade lines, because this lake just winds and twists and you go all 365 degrees, you know, at different points. So there's always going to be banks that are in the shade. Then 2 hours later, there's another bank, and you could run shade lines all day long, you know, with a topwater, with a crankbait, spinnerbait. You know, you could just do that all day long on this lake. And to me, there's definitely dirtier water in this lake. When I scroll around, this is a June of 2022. There's dirtier water, so fish are going to be shallow, you know, in this body of water. I think a big part of the year. You know, I don't think they're all going to have to be deep, you know, especially in the upper stretches. So this is a October photo. It still looks like pretty stained water. It looks like the water's down a little bit. Lots of lily pads, you know. Lots of lily pads in the backs of some of these pockets. Those fish are really going to be in the backs of these flats. You know, I feel like these flatter pockets, these flatter backs of these creeks would be also a definite place to start. That one looks really good. Just if you had a southwest wind, that's what we have here in Oklahoma a lot. It's going to pipe all the way to the back of that. It's going to muddy that flat up. I could go back there, throw a vibrating jig, a spinnerbait. Just a unique back of a creek. I like it a lot. Tons of lily pads in the back of this one. Just check this out. I'm curious if it's always like this, but same thing here. I like that other one a little bit better because it's smaller. I feel like the wind could really push in there a lot more than that one there. So that points that. You got just a few boat docks. You know, if I had to pick something deeper on that thing, you know, if you had to fish something offshore, let me study my C-map just a little bit here and see what we can find. So I found right here a place a little bit deeper. A couple things that it has going for it. Anytime you go to lakes, you know, dog legs, turns, all that kind of stuff. So I've got, you know, a big body of water this direction. Wind is going to be the only current I feel like you're going to have in this lake. You're not going to have a lot of, looking at the dam, you know, you don't have a lot of water running through it. But I got 2 flat points right here, and they run out pretty good ways. So I like these. I would definitely spend time on these 2 points if I lived on this lake. It just, to me, there's going to be some stuff out off of them. This photo here, the water's a little bit lower. But I guess what I'm talking about, when you look at it on your C-map, you can see they run out. They run out good. You know, it's 14, 18 feet. You know, it's a big flat out here. You know, it's going to be 15 feet, and you're going to look like you're out in the middle of the lake when somebody sees you fishing. That's where I'm talking about looking at out here. You know, find you a brush pile, a stump. You're looking out here. If you can see that hand right there, out here off this. You know, if I had to find something deeper, again, football jig, shaky head, you know, possibly a crankbait trying to find a brush pile or a stump out there. But I really like how those 2 points set up, where they set up in this lake. You know, it's narrow, super tight, then wide. So it's just a funnel. Anytime wind's blowing of any direction, there's going to be water moving through that narrow section just because of where it's located. It's just everything on that lake, water's got to move through there. It's the narrowest point. You know, all this water back here, all this water here, that is super narrow right there. Water's going to move through there if there's any kind of water movement on that lake. And those fish are going to use that water movement on those 2 points, in my opinion. So there's some great spots there on that Salt Fork Lake. That's what I would look for on a lake like that. Again, that's kind of a narrow river run lake. There's a lot of lakes like that across the country, but it's not overly deep, which is kind of different being so narrow. Okay, the last lake. I had a hard time deciding. Between, I had George Hisler. He sent in Somerville Lake. I've had a ton of requests on Sharon Harris. Like every month, lots of people send in Sharon Harris. So a little bit about Sharon Harris for you guys that don't know about it. It's a power plant lake, and it's probably why I've hesitated to do this a lot in this video, is just because, you know, most power plant lakes, they don't fluctuate very much. They're kind of oddities. We don't have a lot of power plant lakes across the country, but this one's really popular. Major League Fishing's had a few events there. I actually made the championship round here one time. It's an older lake. Like when I was there, there's lots of soft bottom. There's lots of shallow grass. It's kind of mucky. So just remember this. And this is so key on a lot of lakes. But this time of year, bass truly key in on shad. And especially in flatter, older lakes like this, like it just, they key on shad. So anywhere you're running down that lake, you see like a congregation of birds, or you see a congregation of gulls sitting out in the water, that's going to be a place to start. So I can't just sit here on this map, oh, there's a lot of birds here, there's bait fish there. I can't do that. But always remember that on any lake, and especially a lake like this, just because it's kind of it's a weird lake. It's just a flat, featureless lake when you look at it. You know, so as I scroll around here, you know, in the springtime, it's easy to break down. You got lots of grass, these flatter banks. You know, what I would look for in the spring is a little bit steeper banks. What I remember about it, you know, so many of the banks were really flat, but when you get in a pocket, so let's say like this one, where it's steeper, where I've got deeper water up close to the bank, those were the key areas for me when I was there in the spring. You can see it's steep. It's steep. That's flat. You can just see the color change right there in that map. I think there's a photo here, if I remember correctly, back when I studied it a long time ago after the tournament. Yeah, like here's a lower water photo. So I don't want to fish around here. I want to fish where this deep water is right there really close to that in the spring. You know, same thing over here. You can see there's deeper water close. Again, this would be flat. You can't, you know, there's steep. You know, that little stretch right there is steep. That's the kind of stuff I look for in the spring. That's not necessarily the case, you know, this time of the year. So if I was to go there and start, let's quit beating around the bush. I got to come over here to my C-map just so I can see some depth. So you can see right here that the lake's off limits back here. We're going to go back to kind of what I said on, you know, that last video. Really paying attention to the wind, you know, and that kind of stuff. So if I've got a lot of wind pushing, you know, let's say for me it's southwest. I feel like out there on the East Coast, you have more of an offshore blow or a blow going towards the coast. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like that's the case. The Atlantic Ocean really affects a lot of this stuff out here. So the way this lake lays, you know, maybe that arm there, but it's got buoyed off. But this arm here, you know, maybe if that wind's really blowing this direction from the coast, I'm going to look in the back of that pocket, you know, just to see if I've got a lot of bait fish. Maybe the back of this pocket. These are two bigger creeks or arms, you know, where I can run to the back of that and see if something's happening. You know, obviously this one's really obvious. It's super flat back there. I like to look on a lot of lakes across the country on these great big flats, you know, starting in September, October. it's just a great place to look. You know, anywhere you got that 3, 4, 5 foot of water, any isolated wood. You know, what I remember about this, there's a good defined creek channel. I went way back in here, but, you know, if I found some isolated wood right out here on this flat, that'd be a place that I would go start, a place I would look, especially on a lake like this. It's just flat, older, those kinds of things. I don't remember this road, but this looks really neat to me. I've got an offshore point right here, an old road that crosses. You know, anytime you have something that defined, that unique on a body of water, you always have to look at it. Let me see what it looks like here. Yeah, you can see the start of it right here. It's a good spot to start, you know, and the reason again is it's a pinch point, it's a funnel, it's a compression. You know, that water that moves this direction, that water that moves that direction, the water has to go up and over that road, thus making it easier, compressing the water column for that bass to eat that shad. It just runs right out here, and it runs right out here. You can actually see a boat right there fishing it, so it must be a good spot. There's a boat on it. That would be a spot I would start. I don't care what time of the year it is. That's going to be some place that's going to hold a fish year in, year out on that lake. Just looking around a little bit more, you know, it's easy to pick out these offshore stuff, you know, deeper stuff. You know, you're going to have a brush pile right out here on this point. You're going to have a brush pile right out here off this point. You know, that hump right there. You're going to have some cover, something out there that would hold a bass. That'd be stuff that I would look for if those fish are deeper. But for the most part, September, a lake like this, guys, I am going to run around as quick and as fast as I can, looking for birds, looking for gulls, looking for herons, looking for the backs of those pockets where wind's been blowing in, color changes, shade lines. That could be anywhere on this lake. It's a great lake to fish. It's got some grass in it, but that grass is starting to die this time of year, especially on a power plant lake. So they're either going to be mega shallow, this deep. Like, think about that. Don't overlook that. You know, I don't care if the water's still really warm. That's the best oxygen this time of the year. So if you've got that grass, that matted grass, look on the inside of it, the shallowest portions of it you can, or on the outside of it. I just feel like a lot of times, you know, they're relating to the front of the back, especially as that grass starts to die in the fall. I've got another bridge opening right here, another old bridge right here that's just it looks good to me. If those fish are out deeper, it's a pinch point again. I could fish the real bridge, and I could go right there and fish this old bridge that's underneath the water. Anything unique like that, I really like to, you know, take some time and fish. Look at this one right here. It runs out 20 feet, the tip of it. That would be a place to start, you know, if those fish are deeper. If you feel like those fish are really deep on you, you know, that would be a place to start. It's going to have to hit over here somewhere on this point too. It doesn't show up necessarily on the sea map, but it doesn't mean it's not there. One last deep spot, you know, if you're looking for a deep spot, this old road or pond dam that goes across the mouth of this pocket down here at the dam, that looks really good to me. So if I was to go there, I'm going to have to determine how deep, how shallow these fish are. I'm going to look shallow really first. I'm going to run the backs of some of those pockets the wind's been blowing into. I'm going to fish some shallow flat points, you know, covering water with a buzzbait, with a Chopo, with a Jaywalker, some shade lines off the ends of some of those laydowns that are on that lake. Then if that's not happening, or as the day gets warmer, the sun comes up, I am going to start looking at some of this deeper stuff, and I'm going to really, you know, pay attention on the active target if you've got active target, or just take your time and fish it. Fish it with a big worm, fish it with a crankbait, maybe slow roll or spinnerbait down through there. Those are the areas that I would look for on a lake like Sharon Harris. Great lake, but a lake that gets fished a bunch. So don't be afraid to drop down in line size, drop shot, shaky head, Ned rig, finesse type stuff. Show those fish something different, or maybe upsize your stuff. Reel your baits faster. Like, that's always a thing I do in September. Speed cranking a square bill crankbait. Speed cranking a lipless crankbait. You know, something super fast where that fish either has to move out of the way or eat it. It's that simple. That's what I want to make that fish do. So keep those things in mind. You know, go back and look at that video last week talking about those baits and how I retrieve those baits. Those baits would work here absolutely without a shadow of a doubt. So, all right. enough about that. Let's get on to this month's winner. All right, so we just randomly went through there. You know, Billy, man, you have been a loyal subscriber. It's Billy Williams, 3527. Your comment this past video was, "Good morning, Edwin. More good info. I'm starting to use your approach on my home lakes in California and had some success. Thanks for sharing your knowledge." Man, I'm glad to help you, Billy, just for watching, leaving that comment. You send me an email through my website, and I will email you a battery certificate from the fine folks at Optima Batteries. You can choose what battery you want, one for your car, your boat, whatever it is, but you're going to get a battery from Optima Batteries. And that's the only winner, guys. That's Billy Williams, 3527. You're the winner, buddy. Let's keep the spam off here. I will not contact any of you guys. But with that said, guys, if you like my videos, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell somebody about it. I would appreciate the help and the support. So until then, good fishing, tight line, set that hook, and just keep looking. Be moving. Keep that bait moving. Reel it in faster. Reel it in slower. Change everything up. Don't be doing the same things. Always doing something, trying something different. Different levels of the water column until you find them, guys. Good fishing.